Hey, I know it's late o'clock, and it's probably not gonna be many folks here, but that's cool. This is my first time going live from YouTube. Um, I'm really looking forward to making the YouTube community a part of my regular community, like my Facebook community, when I go live, when I talk about things. And this is really just random. This is my first time going live from YouTube. Um, and I'm not fully sure all of what I wanted to say. Um, Other than talk about some things that I wanted to see happen in 2018. And that's really just bringing some things into fruition, manifesting some things, particularly traveling, talking, training, doing interviews, things like that. That's what I'm looking forward to in 2018. And already I have some opportunities coming up in January and February. So I need to speak into existence some opportunities for March, April, June, and so on. It's been a rough year. And I know a lot of people share those sentiments because particularly in my cluster, in my tribe, in my community, I've been following people. Mental Health Monday is kind of something that I would do to keep track of what was going on with people in my community, what was going on with people in my tribe. For me, most of my Mental Health Monday for 2017 has been about my experience with a major depressive episode and my recovery from that major depressive episode. And so I'm still speaking to that in the voice of recovery for the remainder of the year. This will be the last weekend of the year that I talk about my recovery in 2017. And at this point, I feel like I'm in early, middle recovery from my major depressive episode that I experienced beginning back in January of 2017. It really settled in about March 2017, culminating in a loss of employment. I spoke to it about 2 weeks ago, wondering why I didn't go inpatient, why I didn't go residential, why no one of the professionals that I was working with suggested that to me as an option, which I think it really would have helped me in my recovery make my process accelerate a little bit faster. But I didn't do that. So it's really important to me now to look ahead to what my next relapse might look like and think about being sure that I have advanced directives in place that if I have another mental health relapse that I go in, that I be hospitalized. As unfavorable as that is, I still think that's the better option than me being at home and dredging through it alone. Or, I don't even want to say alone. I want to give my family the credit they deserve for helping me in my recovery. But here it is tonight. There's some things I want to talk about that I don't feel like I can talk about yet. I've spoken to some of you privately about some things that I experienced within the last week The rest of you, I will catch you up when the necessary developments occur. In the meantime, I just want to talk about some of my goals for this year. And those include regular postings on my YouTube channel, my Facebook Live channel, getting my writings together. At first, I was really interested in self-publishing, but I don't know if that's the way to go for me. So I really want to give my... God's Junk Drawer is not your typical memoir because I want to include those interruptions that take place because of my mental illness. I want to include the disjointedness that occurs because of depressive episodes that take place because of trauma that interrupts my writing process. I want to be true to that in my memoirs. And this is part 1 of my memoirs, because I plan on living a lot longer than this, at least double the time that I already have. So when I talk about God's Junk Drawer, what that is imagine, people always say, like, the black woman is God, the black woman is God. And even though I don't always identify as a woman, I'm a non-binary person, but I do realize that I'm bred as a woman. I'm born in a time where the binary is still the standard. And to some extent, there's no escaping that, right? So to embody that, the black woman is God. And if my God, my higher power, is in charge here, she's going to be a lot like me. They're going to be a lot like me. She's not just a she. She's not a binary person. She's not a binary being. She's transcended gender in a way that I don't have all the language to articulate. But for the purpose of the book, that higher power is organizing herself. My higher power, my God is a young God. They're a young God in a body that is bred as woman when they choose to take a body. And they're dealing with the difficulties of being responsible for a being that is non-binary, that is queer, living in a world where the binary is being broken under white supremacy. So the book is called God's Junk Drawer. And this is the moment where my God, where my higher power is dealing with all of the things that they have thrown aside, all of the things that they have ignored and thrown in a drawer and not dealt with related to this person that they're responsible for. And they're going to wake up one morning and decide, I'm going to clean this drawer. I'm going to go through it. And they're going through my things. They're going through my memories. They're going through my depressive episodes. They're going through experiences in my life that have made me who I am up until this point, and they're organizing those. And they're organizing those into a book. And that book is my memoirs up until this point about the 40-year mark. At this time, I'm 36 years old. So let's just say, for the sake of the book, we're doing about the 40-year mark. And I'm imagining already in another 20 years, the stories that I would tell you from there. So there's God's Junk Drawer, and then there's God's Junk Drawer Part 2, which is some of the stories that have just recently occurred in my life that I just don't feel ready to talk about. And I'm hoping that I will be able to within the next couple of decades. So, with that being said, instead of this being a self-publishing venture for now, I'm going to see what it looks like to shop this to publishers who might be interested in looking at a book of memoirs that's disjointed, that's incomplete, that is frustrated, that is not well that is not well perforated in any way. I want to show you what it looks like when a gifted writer writes and is interrupted by life and by trauma and by depression, mental health problems. I want to demonstrate what that looks like. So I've already shared a few chapters from that on my Medium page. You'll see Eric Ever After, which is one of the chapters that has been easier for me to share, talking about a relationship that I had after a very unhealthy relationship that helped me come into the awakening that I'm in now. In addition to that, there's some other things that I want to talk about that I just haven't been able to flush out in writing. Particularly, I was feeling a lot of guilt about my aunt, Bunny. She's been a very important part of my life, and writing about her has been very difficult. And I was thinking up until today that her role in my life I wouldn't be able to describe until the next book. But the more I think about it, the more I realize that it belongs in this book, in God's juncture. So in order to understand Bunny, you have to understand that my mother was raised by her grandparents. She was adopted by her grandparents. And I talk about that some in the book. My mother verbalized that she was lonely and she wanted siblings. And that went very much along with what my great-grandmother wanted. My great-grandmother, Big Ma, y'all that have a relationship with me on Facebook, y'all know I talk about Big Ma. Big Ma always envisioned herself having many children, but due to the complications that she experienced in childbirth with her son, who is my mother's mom, who is my grandfather, she was not able to have more children after she gave birth to her son. With that being said, she ended up adopting children. She adopted 2 children, and she became a caregiver for many children. And I do talk about that in the book. But 2 of the children that she adopted were my aunts. One is Sharon and one is Bunny. And Bunny is largely responsible for my worldview, for my diverse interest. Bunny is interesting. Bunny was born in a psychiatric hospital in Pontiac called Clinton Valley that no longer is there. She was born there. Her mother was a patient in Clinton Valley and gave birth to my aunt Bunny. And my great-grandmother adopted Bunny out of this psychiatric hospital. And I think there were 9 or 11. I can't remember which. I would have to confirm with my mother for sure. 9 or 11 children that Bunny's mother had gave birth to. And my great-grandmother adopted Bunny. So Bunny had inherited some psychiatric disorders that I can't put a direct name on or a diagnosis on. But I do know there was some hoarding behaviors, and that word didn't exist when I was growing up. I do know that there were moments of mania and there were moments of depression, and bipolar was not something that existed when I was growing up. We called it manic depressive. Bunny exhibited some of these things, but at the same time, Bunny was responsible for exposing me to many, many things. Baseball, monster trucks, wrestling, country line dancing. So some of the odd interests that I have, or that people might find are odd, or say are odd, are because of Bunny. My connection to supporting men in the prison system is because of Bunny. That was something that Bunny did, and that I remember in my childhood, and I'll talk about that in the book. It's something very difficult for me to talk about because Bunny did not date black men. And at the time, I didn't understand why. And my great-grandmother was very upset with Bunny because she didn't date black men. But yet, I remember Bunny accepting calls from black men in prison and writing letters to black men in prison. Some of those calls I intercepted. And I'll talk about that later on in some of the chapters that I'll write. Maybe I'll talk about it in the videos, but some of it is just very, very difficult for me to recount because I had my own experiences with these men that she was talking to. But Bunny didn't date black men. She said that they weren't attracted to her, so she dated white men. And she eventually was engaged to one who was hugely problematic, who was a user, a con artist. And then later, she married a white man who loved her very much, who I was leery of because of her past relationships with white men. Bunny's room was blue. Bunny's room was blue. And her room was very cluttered and very crowded. She was a hoarder. Again, that word didn't exist when I was growing up. But there was a sense of order to the room that I understood. The room was very junky, very cluttered. It frustrated my Big Ma very much. It frustrated me very much because sometimes it verged on nasty. You know, in the later years, before Bunny moved out, the room was nasty. Nasty. In my early childhood years, the room was cluttered. Cluttered with cassette tapes, cluttered with books. That's very important to my development because those books were a part of my escapism. They were a part of my coping skills. So all of the tons and tons of books that Bunny had in her room, her baby blue room, her room was painted baby blue room. Her room was painted baby blue. She had a closet that was full of books. And I read every book in Bunny's room. Some of the books I would take home with me and I would read, and they were useful to me in my escapism from the abuse and trauma that I was experiencing at home in my parents' relationship. So when I was at Big Ma's house, Bunny's room was kind of a refuge for me. And when Bunny was at work or when Bunny was out on a date, I would sneak in Bunny's room, sneak in Bunny's closet, and I would read her books. And when I was about 12 years old, it came clear that I was troubled. And one of the books that Bunny suggested to me at about 11 or 12, maybe I was 10, between 10 and 12, was Donald Goines, Whoreson. And I started reading Donald Goines when I was about 10 in Bunny's closet. In her closet that was shaped like this. And I was sitting there. This is me, the lip gloss. And I was sitting in the closet that was shaped like this. And I would read Whoreson. And I was addicted to that book. And I became addicted to Donald Goines' writings. And I eventually read all of his books in that closet very quickly. And I think I knew then that I wanted to be a writer. And I started to write stories. Long before that, okay, I was writing stories, but it was about then that I took ownership of those stories. And Bunny would help me write those stories on her typewriter. I would tell her the stories and she would write them. And I read whatever I could. When I was outside of Bunny's closet, I would read whatever I could. Cereal boxes, the entire newspaper, including the want ads, the for sale ads, the comics, everything. I would read it. And sometimes, even today, I picture myself back in Bunny's blue room in that blue closet. It was like a womb to me. I remember even sitting in Bunny's bed overlooking the backyard. There was a window, and I can picture sitting in her bed in that cluttered, hoarded room with shit everywhere. Cassette tapes, Richard Marx, White Snake, you know, all the hair bands of the 80s and the early 90s. All of the books piled up, books everywhere, keychains, earrings, cards, anything you could think of hoarded in that room. And I remember sitting in that room one day and Hurricane Hugo was influencing the weather in Detroit, in Pontiac, sitting in her room, watching the trees just bend, and bend. And not even realizing that I was having some of my first depressive episodes in that room. Not even realizing that I was having some of my first genius episodes in that room, in that closet, reading books. So while I thought I would not be able to talk about Bunny in this first book, it looks like I will be able to. What troubles me the most about Bunny is that she died in 2013. And I feel like most of the times I'm very angry at her for dying. She suffered with diabetes for many years, and she never adhered to the doctor's recommendations for her diet or even her insulin regimen. Sometimes she would abuse that insulin regimen depending on what was going on in her life. If her relationships with men weren't going well, if her relationships at home weren't going well, she would manipulate that insulin in such a way that she would pass out. She would lose consciousness. She would go into the hospital. Well, in the early 2010s, she started having health problems. And I remember long before this, she always had a fear of going blind. Even before she was diagnosed with diabetes, she had a fear of going blind. And in the early 2000s, that fear started to manifest itself into something that seemed entirely possible because she was having problems with blood circulation. And I remember she lost a couple of toes. Then she lost a foot. And she lost a leg. And she lost 2 legs. When she went under and she had made her peace with losing the one leg, while she was under, they found that the other leg needed to go as well. And her husband had to make that decision for her, for that other leg to go. So when she woke up, she had no legs. Even though she had made her peace with that one leg, she hadn't made her peace with 2. And I was going through my own shit at the time, a very abusive relationship, and I was not fully present. I was not fully supportive of Bunny in the way that she deserved. And she gave up. She gave up hope. And I remember with what few grains of sanity that I had left, with what few spoons that I could dig into reality, I had did some research on people who were living as amputees as a result of diabetes. I learned about a few people who had dealt with years of depression from losing limbs as a result of diabetes and had went on to live lives that they described as fulfilling. And I tried to share this with her, and she just wasn't feeling it. She just wasn't feeling it. And I had to remember that even though Bunny had mental illness that I can't name fully, even though Bunny had learning disabilities that I can't name fully, she had lived a very full and active life. She always traveled. She always lived in a way that was very fearless. And when it came to facing not having legs, she just wasn't feeling it. And I remember one conversation we had where I tried to share with her that the depression that she was feeling was normal. The frustration that she was feeling was normal, according to other people who had went through the same thing. But she could feel better and she could resume her part in life and in our lives. But I guess she just didn't want to do that. And she let go. She died. And when she first died, I was angry at her, like she did it on purpose. Like she just laid there and died. Like she just laid there and gave up. And then I felt a great deal of guilt for not being independent and not being in my own mind and not being able to support her and care for her properly and go see her. The more I think about it, the more I hope that she wasn't angry with me for not being able to be there. The more I hope that she doesn't think that I was just selfish and not being present, because I had no explanation for why I wasn't there when she woke up and she had no legs. I had no explanation other than I was sick and I was under the control of a relationship that was very abusive and very toxic and very sick for me. I wasn't there. And she let go. and she died. And I miss her very much. And I didn't know how to talk about her in this book. And I didn't think that I would be able to, but I realized that I have to. So this is partially why I'm talking through it here. That is something that I must make a connection to, and I must own in this book, in this volume of the book. And it's okay if I need to talk about it more in the future volume. In addition to that, I have some ideas for improving my broadcast ability and being able to interview people who were influential in my life, who are influential in my life, and being able to give them some space here and interview them here and take care of them here to make amends for all of those that I wasn't able to take care of. In addition to that, I have an idea for a web series that I want to do called Trade. Trade is a web series concept that I have for a group of queer polyam folk who are running a Forex trade brokerage and have turned that Forex trade brokerage into a lounge where you can come in and there's big screen TVs where you can view all of the trades that are going on, and they're giving you signals. And it's also a weed lounge, and it is a group, a a polyam couple group that is running this trade lounge, who are experiencing the ups and downs of being business owners, of being people of color, of being queer, of being polyam, and all that comes with that in this bar. And that is a web series that I want to show. So I'm hoping that probably about the middle of 2018, that I can start looking forward to raising the funds to produce it. I'm looking for actors. I have a few people in mind for certain parts, and I'll get more into detail about what specifically that I'll need this year when it gets closer to time to start casting for these parts. But you don't have to be an experienced actor to be considered for the part. I'm also looking for a team of writers to lend their talents to the show as well. And the goal is to be able to compensate everybody who participates. So that's why I'm hoping that I'll be able to crowd fund or get allies to help fund the web series, the production cost of the web series, and be able to pay everybody that's involved. So I'll need writers, I need actors, I need everything. I'm learning about production. I'm learning about everything that goes into it. I have a few storylines in mind, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to gather myself a team mid 2018 to sit down and come up with a direction for the story. I have some great ideas, and I think that people will really dig it because it's all about representation. And I want to give some representation to groups that haven't been represented, even in some of Black writers' attempts to be very diverse. There's a bunch of groups that just haven't been seen. So if you're thinking that this might be something that you're into, let's talk. Let's talk about what you could contribute as a writer, what you could contribute towards directing an episode. That's something that I want to look into. And I'll be able to give you more details about the specific premise of the show as 2018 opens up. That's also something that I really want to be able to share with my subscribers on Patreon, because I'm hoping that I can use that Patreon subscription to get more and more people to really get behind this web series idea as I get it flushed out. Just imagine being able to flip on whatever network, your Roku, your YouTube, whatever it is, and see an ensemble cast of Black, queer, polyamorous business owners. Some of us raising children within this couple. Some of us dealing with disabilities within this couple. Dealing with all of the intersections of oppressions and privilege, and just looking at how that plays out in a type of way where we have a regular cast, and in addition to special guests that come in and lend something special to our stories. Think about it. I think it's a really cool idea. So those are just some of the things that are running through my head tonight. This is my first video on YouTube. I'm really nervous. I don't feel like I have a community here yet, but I'm working on building it. And one of the ways that I try to do that is being very transparent and sharing my memories of Bunny up front, sharing some of my concerns about writing the book up front. It's just my way of lending to you my vulnerability, my transparency, and sharing some of my goals about the show, Trade. It's just me sharing my vision. So I hope that there's somebody out there that this is reaching that may hope to be a part of the show, Trade, in some way, and wants to support it, wants to get behind it, and wants to see it become a thing. Because I think it'll really be popping. So that's pretty much all I got for tonight. Yeah. And from here, the videos will get better. The production will get better. This was just a spur of the moment thing. Like, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. I'm never going to break into my first YouTube video. So here it is. I've already been taking some of my videos from Facebook Live and bringing them over to YouTube. But I said I just got to break in and do a video on YouTube. So here it is. And here's some of the things that I'm speaking into existence for 2018. God's Junk Drawer, Volume 1 of my memoirs from birth to age 40-ish. Even speaking into existence that in another 15 or 20 years, I'll need to write another book. And some of those characters have already surfaced in my life. And I'm just holding on to them for a few years until it's time to write about them. And third, Trade, the web series that I'm hoping to be able to amass the funding for this year and get y'all to thinking about joining. Jocelyn says, please keep talking. I feel like I'm out of things to say, but I could keep going. Trade in 2018, hoping that there's somebody out there that's listening that in some way would want to be a part of that. I listen to your videos all the time and I talk about you a lot in my personal life. That means a lot to me. That means a lot to me. And that definitely means in 2018, I will be more diligent about these videos and keeping them up and keeping them going and having a focus for them and not always just popping on at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning and just talking off the side of my neck, but really, really having a focus and a vision for what I'm saying. And there are a few ideas that I got going, y'all. It's just some stuff happened last week that I cannot talk about yet. And I hope that it gets resolved really soon so I can get past this and let y'all know what's going on and talk about it and be able to move past it. So again, the show trade is the most important thing that I want y'all to think about, in the ways that you can contribute as writers, as guest writers on the show, directing episodes, being guest actors on the show, being regular cast on the show. I haven't worked it all out yet. What I have for Envision is as far as the couple goes, I think it's about 6 people that I have. I don't have the actual people who will play the people in mind, but about 6 characters that I have in mind that are part of this cluster, a polyamorous couple that starts this business based on Forex trading. It starts with Forex trading, which is a little bit based on my real life, and learning a little bit about Forex trading and kind of getting screwed around in that whole thing, but taking it to the next level. And 2 or 3 of the members of that couple being successful Forex traders and successful enough to start not only a brokerage, but be able to open up a trading lounge that serves marijuana, a marijuana lounge where people can come and smoke weed and eat good food and put in their Forex trades, making a lot of money. I would love for this show to be based in teaching queer, trans, non-binary, LGBTQIAP folks about Forex trading, about business ownership, okay, about mental health and how we can treat that with our Western medications and prescriptions, and also marijuana, and also being able to write really dope guests into the script because folks want to come visit the trading lounge, because it's not only a place where you can trade and make money, which is really, really dope. I mean, imagine having like Rihanna come into the trading lounge and come and make trades and put down a shitload of money and walk out with a shitload of money, and also be able to like cash out the bar so other black folks in the bar can make some trades. Like Rihanna's gonna put down $100 on whatever trade you're about to fucking make, everybody in the bar, because she can afford that. And also we just in there smoking weed, and we in there dealing with real life issues, what it's like to be in a polyam relationship, and all of the intricacies that come in along with that. And I hope you fall in love with these characters the way people have fallen in love with characters in bars like Cheers and all that shit over the years. That's my vision for that. So I'm sharing that with y'all because I want to get your gears grinding. And I want you to start imagining the people that you want to imagine in those parts. And I want you to start imagining yourself and what ways that you would contribute to the show. If that may be you want to donate $5 towards the show, $1 towards the show. If you want to write an episode, all of those things are important. So just planting a seed here today. Get you thinking about the show Trade. #Trade. That's the show. Or if you want to be a guest on the show, if you have anything to contribute about Forex trading, whatever the case may be, start thinking about it today. And I'm going to be more diligent on my shows, on my lives, on YouTube and on Facebook so that I'm talking about the things that are relevant to you and at the same time being honest about what I'm going through. Okay? So, much love. Think about trade tonight. Think about God's junk drawer. Look forward to that book. Look forward to trade as a show and how you can contribute. And I love you and happy New Year. I hope all of your dreams come true this year. All of the things that you write down as manifestations, all of the things that you speak as manifestations, that they will be in 2018. Because I've been keeping track and I've been following folks, and we've been through enough. We've learned the lessons that we need to learn. Now 2018 is about applying that shit and reaping some benefits. And that's what I'm hoping for everybody that's listening and everybody that loves somebody that's listening. 2018, it's our fucking year.